before we take questions, we have 2 public comments on this this agenda item. So let's take those public comments, and then colleagues can put their questions together if they have more, and we can discuss. So, Anne, will you call up our 2 people?
Yes, Matt Mathis and Ignacio Van Williams.
So Matt, this is Stacy Begin. I wanted to let you know you have 3 minutes. You'll see a timer on the screen, and you're going to be up first. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great.
Hi, and my son's here too. So I just wanted to first start with just telling you guys, like, we really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I know school board meetings have been heated throughout the country, and I just wanted to say you guys are doing a great job. And I know you're getting a lot of pressure. It's not easy being elected officials. So thank you for what you're doing and trying to keep our kids safe and giving them a good environment to work in or to go to school in. I spoke to you guys a few months back about extending the dates for the registration ages for the TK program, which you guys did. Hartford's in that program now, and he's doing great. Really loves it over at Southfield Elementary School and is making tons of friends, transitioning well out of the pandemic, and it's been awesome for our family. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the expenditure plan, and just bring up a couple of things from what we've seen in the classroom, talking to the teachers. And one of the things is with the limited, seems like adults that can be in the classroom, the TK program now starting to extend out to longer hours. Instead of the 12:15, it's going to be going to almost 3 o'clock. If there's, I don't know if it falls under the purview of what the spending is, but if there is a way to support some of either additional administrative staff or support staff for those TK programs, I think the classes, the teachers could really use the help in those classes, because I think 17 TK kids is probably a lot, especially for a full day now. So I'm not sure if that is under that, but if it is, that would be really great. The other thing would be, I've heard a little bit from some of the parents that with the TK programs having such varied size of kids and having really small kids, that smaller masks that actually fit the kids better needs to look at being purchased and supplied. Just some of the generic one-time use masks just don't seem to fit them very well, and they're having to tie knots in them and things like that. And then the last thing is, with them going into a longer day, I think the extended schedule with quiet times and things like that, I know with this little one, nap time was not happening in preschool, so they had to come up with a lot of different creative ways. Hey kiddo, come here. Creative ways of being able to keep the kids entertained. So I don't know if there's a budget for purchasing like magnetiles or trains or Legos or something like that, but just some more materials and curriculum for the kids to be able to use during those times, I think would be awesome. But again, thank you guys for everything. We really appreciate it, and just keep doing a great job. I also do support the solar for the parking structures, by the way. I have solar, and I think it's the way to go, and I'm trying to push it for my fire department to get all of our public buildings to have that as well.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Yes, Brad, yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, Brad, you have 3 minutes. We'll start the clock over.
All right, thank you so much. Hi, good evening, and I'm here to speak out against some of the mismanagements of fiscal resources at Oceanside High School that are not student focused. I'm sorry. In the last board meeting, you had an employee give a presentation saying that there are over the next 3 school years that OUSD would be in debt nearly $30 million. Earlier in this meeting, it was proposed that OUSD should have overhead shades in the parking lots and other locations in school. These shades will cost anywhere from $2.5 to $7 million. And this is a task that's not directly student focused. In another previous meeting, it was mentioned spending large sums of money on the new logo. Again, a task that is not student focused. Another issue that has been that has been addressed to us, the parents, If it weren't for COVID, I would be spending $40 a month on transportation for my daughter to attend a public school, an issue that would hinder some students from being able to get to school, especially those low income families. Well, I appreciate all the efforts that all the teachers do for us. I truly do, honestly. Many other issues, and this is from last meeting. We're not focused. We're not focused on money. Yes, money is a big deal. We're all struggling, on some sort of thing. Gas is super high and everything is super high right now. But I think what they could use more of is time with their families, time to relax, and to just to have time to themselves. With that, if money is going to be spent, we should spend buying more teachers. That would help lower the student to teacher ratio, which I've researched, which is 1 to 30, which is incredibly high. Additionally, also, if money needs to be spent, I would fully fund sports and activities. For example, my daughter is at OHS, and she's on the cheerleading team. Fundraising for that cost $1,000, $1,000 that she had to go ahead and fundraise on her own in order for uniforms and things like that. That's probably way too high. Things like these will elevate the students' abilities to learn and give them a better time at school, and allow them to, just to be kids. They're kids, and all that. They should be focused on students, not pet projects. All in all, we would like a fair contract also for our children. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Tobias. Next speaker.
Katie Taylor.
Hello, Katie. You're up next. I think you got to hit the mute button.
See a microphone?
Yeah, hover on your screen. Down below on the left-hand side, you'll see a mute button. Looks like a microphone. You click on it.
Or hit your keyboard maybe, because it's a key?
Okay.
Space key?
All right.
You can hit the space bar and speak also, Katie.
Yeah. Hit the space bar on your computer.
Nope.
All right. Well, Katie's figuring it out. Let's pull up our next speaker, and then we'll come back to Katie. You have an
We're, hold on 1 second. Our next speaker will be Todd Madison.
All right, Todd, you've been promoted.
Todd Madison, you would have to unmute yourself.
My screen came back up, so if Todd doesn't come up, I can proceed.
Okay, great, Katie.
Sorry about that. My screen went away.
Right, we all have those technical issues. We appreciate your patience. Go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. I would just like to address, tonight the school board is going to be deciding once again to increase the red ink and dangerous debt level of the Oceanside Unified School District by rewarding failure. In what world do we increase the salary and compensation for people who are failing to educate our students? The proposed salary increases for teachers and administrators is absolutely outrageous, considering only 46% of students, that means under 50% of our students, are proficient in English language, arts, and literacy. This is not even close to acceptable standards. And teachers and administrators, you think we deserve to give them a raise? Exactly by what criteria is there any justification for a salary increase? Add to that, teachers are already paid well above the average Oceanside resident salary of $60,397 a year for people who may only receive 2 weeks of vacation and far fewer holidays, while the median teacher salary is $124,688, almost double. An average administrator's salary is $164,598. If anything, based on Oceanside's low teacher scores, the debt level the district is suffering from right now, which is something must be discussed. There should be no increases in salaries, period. We must put the kids first and put the money towards the kids and not increasing salaries. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Katie. So our next speaker is Todd Madison. I believe he's on the phone. Participating via Zoom on the phone.
Well, he's on the panel. He needs to unmute himself.
All right. The 510. All right. You've been promoted, Todd.
Okay, so you can hear me now.
Yes, we can. We just want to make
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, my phone was not muted. It was something in Zoom. All right, so thank you, Todd Madison. Sorry to be on the phone. I'm traveling at the moment. But tonight, our board is being asked to approve a set of extra raises for all labor groups, raises that are going to be layered on top of the normal annual raises most get in their salary schedule, with an extra bonus payment as a cherry on top. The disclosures in front of us say this is going to cost $6.5 million this year, $6.4 million the next year, and $6.9 million the year after that. Last month, we saw a budget presentation showing increasing deficits in the next 3 years after the need to cut $16 million in 23-24. That's not unusual. The OUSD budget has been on the verge of insolvency almost continuously since 2017. District management and the board have been consistent in their mismanagement of district finances. Now, I point out that we parents have heard nothing about the County Office of Education's response to that budget submission. Is that because it says things like, quote, the district will be unable to meet its financial commitments in subsequent fiscal years, and, quote, we must submit a detailed list of budget reductions by the first interim report? And the county also says the district is going to need to make a total of $8 million in cuts next year and almost $30 million a year after. Would it be inconvenient to tell parents those cuts that are coming from our kids at the same time as you're proposing to add another $10 million to those cuts to benefit adults, not kids? The legal disclosure asks for the specific impacts on instructional support for our kids. The county has already asked the district to provide a detailed list of budget reductions by the first interim, which is just a month or so away, yet none of those cuts are disclosed here. Did whoever is responsible for making that list not tell whoever is responsible for preparing the disclosure? Does Dr. Norton talk to herself? Or are we just conveniently overlooking that so that you can pass an extra raise for everyone without having to tell parents you're going to cut from their kids to pay for that? So why are we not hearing about the COE's response letter? This is on agenda comment, so I have a question. Why is that letter not being disclosed? Perhaps Dr. Vitale could read that letter to us, particularly the part where they undoubtedly comment on the budget solutions that will pay for these raises, so our board can make more informed decisions in the next few votes. Or are we only going to disclose that after the fact? No wonder parents are protesting at board meetings all over. Taking money from our kids to add to one's paycheck is literally taking candy from babies. At the last meeting, we saw a number of teachers speak, led by Tiffany Ortega, OTA president. While demanding fair pay, why did Ms. Ortega not tell us her total compensation last year was $194,313? We parents agree with the teachers on one thing. It's certainly time for a fair contract for our kids, not for adults. Let's see our board stand up for kids once. We need a fair contract. Thank you.
All right, that concludes our speakers on this item. Speakers. We do have speakers.
We have speakers on all these items on section 9 tonight.
Yes, we do. So item D, we have 2 speakers.
Yes, we do. Todd
Motions are on
Madison
the floor, right?
and Graham Frazier.
All right. Am I on?
Yes.
Yes, Todd.
There you
Okay.
go.
Thank you. Thank you. So here we have the agreement with the support staff, CSEA members. I certainly can't say enough good things about the support staff at OUSD. These are the people who make things work in our district. It's certainly possible they're justified in asking for an extra raise for themselves, again, above and beyond their normal scheduled increases. But we don't know that because our district refuses to do any form of due diligence to show that. Having managed HR in private industry, I can give you a tip. When you're running a deficit and giving people extra raises requires you to take candy from babies to fund them, maybe it's a good idea to actually do your job and determine if you actually have a problem that requires that to solve. I've stood here repeatedly and pointed out how the district mismanages that process. No one collects data on turnover percentages compared to normal in the area. No one does exit interviews to find out if employees are leaving for more money or other reasons, and no one does any kind of salary survey to see what similar jobs pay in the area. No, we just take money from our kids, give it to adults with no backup or justification, because that's the easy thing to do. Yes, taking the lollipop away just because you want to for similar jobs, as if a groundskeeper in Oceanside is going to quit their job here and take a job in Chula Vista because they pay 50 cents an hour more there. People work where they live. The only valid survey would be to find out what companies pay for the same job in the same area, Oceanside and close by North County communities. But we don't see that, do we? Because if the district did that survey, then they'd have to release it when I asked. And then I would stand here and read it to them. And we'd see that our total compensation rates, including pension contributions and benefits, are more than competitive with similar jobs in this area. I don't expect the district to do that because, as we've seen in the financial results, the district has no idea how to run a business, and our board has no clue on the oversight they should be doing. As I said, it's easier to take things from kids than it is to let employees know that they're going to have to make do with the normal annual raises this year, no extra icing on the cake. So when do we get a fair contract for our kids? Thanks.
Right, our next speaker.
Graham Frazier.
Hello.
There you are.
Okay.
Hello, Graham. You have 3 minutes to share.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thanks for listening to me again. I'm going to echo a lot what Todd just spoke about. As you probably know, I've been a long-time business owner in Oceanside, and I wonder if the current Oceanside district debt and fiscal crisis was ever considered in the contract negotiations. Since you weren't there, you probably don't know. And was the looming debt crisis and possible bankruptcy of the school district ever considered? Or was the approval of the item of this item is the plan to just kick the situation down the road? Are you aware of any sense of this? What cuts to the program for our kids are going to be necessary to keep this sinking ship afloat? We'd like to know. No one runs a business like this, at least not for very long. Apparently, none of you have run a business. as I have, nor can figure out a balance sheet. This deal adds, I believe, around $10 million of additional debt to the district's already existing outrageous debt. Just don't do it. You don't have to approve this. Send it back to the parties with instructions to sharpen their pencils and send you a revised, more reasonable agreement for all, including the taxpayers and the district's pupils. If you approve this agreement, it will signal how irresponsible you are with the people's hard-earned money and that you have no fiscal acumen and as such have no business representing us on this board or any other position of public responsibility such as the City Council. Your primary duty is to the community and our kids. Bowing to the teachers' union's demands under the current circumstances with the district in such poor fiscal condition is reprehensible. This is a test for you next November's elections. The voters will remember what you decide to do with their money tonight. I will make sure they do. Thank you.
All right. For that item 9D.
Yeah.
We have a very hardworking staff, support staff and teachers. I love our teachers. We've known many of them personally. I've been to parties at their houses. I've stood next to them at swim meets. I've chaperoned field trips. I've sat on councils and committees with them. Truly great humans. And those great humans are pretty well paid, and I'm fine with that. In 2020, the median total compensation of an Oceanside teacher was $124,688, and I'm glad they're very well paid. But do they really need an extra raise and bonus on top of their normal annual increase when it means cutting from our kids? Wouldn't it be better to put the money into smaller class sizes, better support for kids that need help, programs for gifted kids, money for classroom supplies, or even higher pay for starting teachers? Why don't we hear the union advocate for spending our money on that instead of on themselves? Is it really not all about the kids? We saw a parade of teachers at the September meeting talking about the challenges they're having making ends meet. As I noted earlier, we saw Tiffany Ortega tell us all they were asking for is a fair wage. Ms. Ortega made $194,313 last year. That seems pretty fair to me. We saw Kathy Ahinger, who made $150,123 last year, tell us about the difficulty dealing with cost of living increases, listing extra expenses, and asking what that the negotiating team offer a generous salary. No indication was given on whether $150,000 a year was considered generous or not. We saw Paula Orbaugh, who made $142,698 last year, quote a famous movie line, "Show me the money." Perhaps you might want to take a look at her check stub. We saw Jennifer Skellett, who made $152,969 in total compensation, tell us she felt smaller class sizes and additional support teachers were needed. I totally agree with her, and I wonder why we did not hear her then volunteer to make do with the regular annual increase and forego the extra raise and bonus so that doing that would be possible. These are not bad people in any way. I know several. They're very good people and great teachers. They're human, though, and humans always want more. That's why we have management and boards. We heard about the fair contract. Maybe at this point we can understand that our teachers are paid fairly already. If I ask any individual teacher if giving you a raise means cutting from our kids, I bet the answer would be, well, maybe I can make do this year with my normal raise. Teachers are good people who want the best for our kids. Their union, I'm not so sure that's their focus. Let's see our board make a stand for our kids for a change. Let's see our board send a signal that kids are the first priority of our district, not the last. And yes, we do want a fair contract. We want a fair contract for our kids. Thank you.
All right, next speaker.
Susan. Susan, you're on.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Good evening. Our school district is projected to have an $8.3 million deficit next year. The combined negotiated raise for school district employees with this agreement is $10 million. How can you justify this $10 million expense with an $8.39 million looming deficit? This does not make mathematical sense. Perhaps this is a good time to mention that only 36.23% of our students meet or exceed the standard for math. Our teachers work hard and are paid quite well. I think everyone in Oceanside is glad that they're paid well. It is time to focus on the needs of the students. There is no equity for our Oceanside students, with 63% of them scoring below the standard in math skills. This will have a lifelong negative impact on our students. We need a contract which guarantees our students a quality education. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Michael Richardson.
Hi, Michael, you're up.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We cannot see you, but we can hear
I wonder why. I have spoken to you before about my history with Oceanside schools. I've never really gone into my deep roots of Oceanside schools. My father attended Libby School, which was a one-room schoolhouse in the shadow of San Luis Rey Mission, first through 8th grades, and then he went to Oceanside High School. My mother went to school in downtown Oceanside, and they both went to Oceanside High School. My dad had to drop out in the sophomore year because he was had to support his family during the Depression. My mom graduated in 1938 from Oceanside High School with honors. She was prominently mentioned in the annual several places. I was in the first class at South Oceanside High School. South Oceanside Elementary School. I was in the first class at Jefferson Junior High School, and I graduated in 1955. I graduated from Oceanside in 1959 with honors. I have had at least 24 cousins and brothers who graduated from the Oceanside School District. My Uncle Howard was the first elected mayor of Oceanside. So I have, deep roots, and I think I have credibility to speak on the subject. Saturday, I attended the Oceanside High School Hall of Fame and watched the induction of my cousin, Douglas Avis. Doug was the captain of the CIF championship football team in 1953, president of the student body, and he eventually became a very, very successful businessman. I wonder today what Doug would say. He is a businessman. I wonder what he would say about the school district, who, according to the San Diego Office of Education, is going to be $30 million underwater in a couple of years. What would he say about them spending another $10 million? I say that he would say, no, business would dictate that we can't spend that money. I say, cut the teachers by 10%, cut the administrators by 20%, and cut the superintendent by 30%. We need to be business-like and follow a prudent business-like policy. Thank you.
All right, those are our three speakers. Thank you. We have one public speaker.
Yes, Todd Madison.
All right, thank you. Me again. So here we get to the part of our agenda that is out and out improper and verging on unethical. As an executive managing a division of a billion-dollar national retailer, I've managed managers before. Those managers were responsible for negotiating salary increases with their employees. If I had discovered one of my managers had worked out some kind of a deal where the bigger raise he gave his employees, the bigger raise he would get himself, I would have fired him on the spot. The very idea that the people doing the negotiating are going to personally benefit if they choose to give out higher raises during that negotiation is obviously wrong, completely wrong, totally wrong. Every single person listening to this right now understands that. Or I should say, every person that doesn't work in education and benefit from themselves. I can just imagine the thought process. Let's see now. If I give out a slightly bigger raise, I can finally afford those Padres season tickets I've always wanted. That makes no sense at all. We know that the median total compensation of our administrative employees in 2020 is $164,598. Employees at that level in private industry are considered big boys and negotiate their own salaries, not in education, of course. And in private industry, anyone at that level would have a significant portion of their pay dependent on actually performing, 10, 20, or sometimes even 30%. In my career, I was in charge of designing those compensation programs. I know how they work. Prior to hiring Dr. Vitale, I proposed to the board a compensation program tied to the California School Dashboard measures. Those metrics may not be ideal, but they're what the state uses to track district performance. Under that plan, she could make the same $341,000 she made last year, but the performance of the district would have to improve to get there. So here we're now about to vote to approve a raise negotiated in an unethical way and applied whether the people getting it are performing or not, to people who make nice six-figure incomes already, and we're going to cut from our kids to afford that. That is crazy. According to the disclosure, their compensation levels will go up 4.52%. Here's some samples of how that will affect compensation. Julie Vitale, who made $341,000 last year, will get an increase of $15,000. Todd McAteer, $265,000 last year. He's up $12,000. Mercedes Lovey, $248,000 last year, up $11,000, et cetera, et cetera. You can go to Transparent California for more. Are these good people? Absolutely, absolutely. I know many of you. You're smart, hardworking people, and I appreciate your efforts. You're people I like. The fact that I'm throwing actual data into this conversation doesn't mean that you should not be paid as you are, but just points out, as I said with the teachers, it might be time to stop the skyrocketing raise train and put that money into the education of our kids instead. Again, is now the time for a fair contract for our kids? Thank you very much.
Right, that was our only public comment on this item. Thanks for the explanation. We have 2 public comments on this item.
Yes, Todd Madison and Patty Kay.
Oh, all right, thank you. Thank you, Ann. So it's hard to say much about the schedules, but I thought I'd take a look at the certificated schedule and make some observations. First, we have to note that the certificated schedule from year 1 to year 22 has an overall compound annual growth rate of 3.63%. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, inflation over the last 22 years has been 2.27%. The annual raises built into the salary schedule are about 60% higher than inflation. We often hear from the union that our teachers haven't gotten a raise in X many years. That is an out-and-out lie. The step-in column provides raises almost every year. No one knows the schedule better than OTA. They designed it. Saying no one has gotten a raise because the contract itself has not gotten an increase is a lie. We heard last month about the ravages of inflation. Certainly inflation in the last year has been higher than usual, 5.25%. But picking that period and ignoring the entire rest of the 22 years of the schedule is pretty clearly cherry-picking data. Next, we'll note a huge bump in the final step. After 21 steps averaging 3.5%, all of a sudden we see an increase of over 6% in most columns. So why is this? Well, we know why, because it sets up higher pension payouts. It has nothing to do with retaining senior staff. Those teachers would not leave if they got only 3.5%. It's just a gift to increase future pensions. We often hear about difficulty recruiting new teachers. What if we use the extra money in that last bump to increase starting teacher pay instead? A rough calculation based on CDE numbers show we could raise starting pay somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a year for starting teachers. You can tell someone's financial priorities not by what they save, but by how they spend their money. If we look at the schedule, we see the union's priorities. It's not hiring new teachers. It's giving retired teachers the highest possible pension payouts. Now, can someone please explain to me how that benefits the education of our kids? For some reason, I'm missing it. This is my last comment for the night. I need to close with this. The point I've been making tonight and for the last decade is simple. Why don't we try running this district as if it's important to stay in the black? Why don't we run this district as if our first priority is what parents want for their kids, not what district employees want for themselves? We hear over and over again how everyone here is only in it for the kids, but then we clearly see from budget that what's in it for me is by far the highest priority. That's why we're going to see overwhelming support for our school choice initiative, which will be out gathering signatures in the next few weeks. People who feel the same should join us at californiaschoolchoice.org. If you're tired of districts who don't seem to care about what parents want for their kids and spending and other issues, let's make it your right to choose a different school. Let's make it your right to walk out. and take your money with you. CaliforniaSchoolChoice.org. Let's help fix this problem for good. Help us by getting out there, getting signatures, and join us in this fight. Thank you.
All right. Item 9H, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Oh, I'm sorry, Patty.
Oh, we have one more. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you, thank you, Ann.
Patty, go ahead.
Yeah, excuse me. Okay, I wasn't planning on this, but I am a bit aghast at the fact there was minimal discussion and basically rubber stamping of the school raises and shocked at the salaries. So those of you that are anticipating future runs, either board or city council, Eric, Stacy, Mike, anyone else, your voting record will be made known, okay? Now, all of us tonight, pardon me? All of us tonight would like a fair contract also for our kids. I suggest you make a contract with them tonight, board, to raise the academic standards, the academic scores. On what merit does the school board agree to a 3.75 raise plus benefits when only less than 26% of their students meet or exceed the standard for science? This was per the
Lost her?
Yeah, it sounds like she's gone. Patty, are you still there?
Goes to the 4%. Consider that the health field worked nonstop in person throughout the pandemic while teachers stayed at home. Consider that health workers work 12 months a year, teachers work 9 to 10 months. Consider that health care often works 12-hour shifts. They work nights, weekends, and holidays. Teachers, however, work 8-hour day shifts Monday through Friday with holidays off. I'm wondering what makes the education field demand more compensation constantly than the medical field. Both professions have unions. Both professions are necessary. Could it possibly be that funds for public education are thought to be unlimited as they are a public entity, while employers like Kaiser are private and therefore must be solvent? School board, you must reevaluate your agreement. You would be doing those employees a disservice as well as the students if you run with a deficit as projected by your county. Show the union, the superintendent, that community that you will keep our district solvent and out of bankruptcy. Show the teachers that you demand academic performance.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, we have two public comments, Eleanor. Can we?
Yes.
You want to hear them first?
Susan Custer and Patty Kay. Susan, you are.
Hi, okay, I'm ready. I would just like to comment that I have a graph here, which I will show you, and hopefully you can see, that the COVID numbers are way down. The new, for the last 2 days at least, which is all that I could find, the new numbers in San Diego County for both cases and death have been 0. Not a single COVID new case. So I'm wondering what the justification would be for this board to continue meeting in Zoom. Now here's the graph. You can see right down here, I've tried to highlight the important words, and I don't know if it's shown up so you can read it or not. But the main thing is to say our numbers are just way down. And we would much rather be able to meet in person and discuss these issues in person. So please go back to in-person meetings. There's been no violence in the city of Oceanside that should preclude you from being able to speak to us in person. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one more public comment.
Patty?
Am I there? Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, there we go. Well, we'd like to know the justification that you closed down personal one-on-one board meetings. In case you weren't privy, I did write an email to Ann Gibbons asking why and did not receive an answer. I can't see all the graphs that you're displaying, and I can't see all the speakers. And a lot of people have trouble getting on, so it delays time and is cumbersome. I wanted to know if this was a one-time shutdown. However, I see on your agenda that you're planning on in November again, and I think in transparency, it would be good for the board to let us know why you voted for this or are going to vote for this. The public needs to know. According to AB 361 that you stated for this, it specifically states the intent was for public access during COVID-19 and future emergencies. But as Susan stated, the COVID rate has gone down significantly. And my charts show just from August, it has gone down at least 50%, if not more. So I don't understand what your reason is, and please let us know. Since there is no emergency with COVID, I wonder what other emergency necessitates a teleconference meeting only, and that's what's stated in AB 361. Can you please give us an indication on that? Also, as far as COVID, if that's your concern, you don't have to wear a mask when you're by yourself, I see. But we've had in-person meetings all through the summer when the rates were higher. And you have allowed the children to come back to school. You've also granted, as you stated at the beginning, Dr. Vitelli, you sent 7 students with 2 chaperones on a field trip to New York for 4 days. And that was 4 students per room. So if COVID is not the reason, what other emergency is there? Please let us know. Let all the public know. Thank you.
All right, those are our 2 public comments.
Emily Richmond will go first.
Hi, hello, board and superintendent. I read from the board policy 1313A under community relations, civility. Civility behavior is courteous and reasonable behavior which is respectful to others and includes integrity, honesty, acceptance, timeless dependability, observance of rules and laws, and effective communication. Also mentioned in paragraph 4, promptly responding to concerns and embracing varying and diverse viewpoints. I refer to a reference given in the civility policy from the board policy 2111, superintendent's governance standards, number 4. The latter part of the sentence says, understands the implications of demeanor and behavior. In a meeting with Dr. Vitale and Dr. Lawrence, I was showing her some of the sources used in the ethnic studies outline I thought did not reflect the heart of Oceanside. I was surprised and taken back when Dr. Vitale kept saying, I don't understand, I don't understand. I was very frustrated with her demeanor and her behavior. In the past, when I've entered superintendent's offices, district, county, or state superintendents, they know what I will be talking about and sometimes even know what I was going to say. If she didn't understand, it means to me she does not know our community very well. In another reference from civility policy being considered, board policy byline 9005, governance standards, I read board members also shall assume collective responsibility for building unity and creating a positive organizational culture To operate effectively, the board shall have a unity of purpose, and a number 4, govern in a dignified professional manner, treating everyone with civility and respect. The community and I expect at least civility. In September, in the meeting with Dr. Vitale, I asked for the categories of who was on the committee for ethnic studies curriculum. I asked for the units to have the resources listed by each unit. At the September board meeting, I asked to meet with Dr. Sparks about his equity and cultural proficiency presentation, as I had questions for him. It's been 4 weeks. I have heard nothing. Tell me no. Well, first of all, be honest. Tell me no. Tell me later. Tell me to file a Freedom of Information Act. Communicate the direction the board is taking with the community. Tell me what my next step needs to be to get the information and the meetings I requested. Thank you.
All right, next speaker.
Katie. Okay. Am I on?
Yes.
Okay. I want to speak to a very wonderful letter written by Californians for Equal Rights regarding the outrageous policy started by Biden and his AG Attorney General Garland, and calling parents and people who come to school board meetings domestic terrorists. I'll start the letter and Mike Richardson will finish it. The letter is written to Ms. Viola Garcia and Mr. Chip Slavin at the National School Board Association. Dear Ms. Garcia and Mr. Slavin, on behalf of our 427,000 members, the undersigned organizations write in response to your September 29th letter to President Biden requesting federal assistance to stop threats and acts of violence against school board members, school officials, and teachers. In that letter, you requested the federal government investigate, intercept, and prevent the current threats and acts of violence against our public school officials through existing statutes, executive authority, interagency, intergovernmental task forces, and other extraordinary measures, and that the government leverage the expertise and the resources of the U.S. Department of Justice, including the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Secret Service, and its National Threat Assessment Center. NSBA, National Association of School Board, cites a tiny number of minor incidents in order to insinuate that parents who are criticizing and protesting the decision of school boards are engaging in, or may be engaging in, as domestic terrorism and hate crimes. NSBA even invokes the Patriot Act, the association of legitimate protest with terrorism and violence reveals both your contempt for parents and your unwillingness to understand and hear the sincere cries of parents on behalf of their children. To equate parents with terrorists and dishonors the thousands of victims of actual terrorism around the world. Have you no shame? Your letter to President Biden is a thinly veiled threat, intimidate into silence and submission the very constituents that your members ostensibly represent. Our organizations unequivocally oppose violence and find it deeply troubling that you apply otherwise about concerned citizens who deeply care about their community's children and who are concerned by the direction that American schools have taken. And Mike Richardson will read the remaining of the letter. Thank you.
Mike? Oh, go ahead. Start now?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Citizens are angry that school boards and school officials around the country are restricting access to public meetings, limiting, as you are, limiting public comment as you are, and in some cases conducting business via text messages in violation of state open meeting laws. They are angry that schools are charging them thousands of dollars in public records requests to view curriculum and training materials that impact their children and that should be open to the public by default. They are angry that pandemic-related learning losses have compounded the already low reading, writing, and math proficiency rates in American schools. They are angry that rather than focusing on declining student achievement, large numbers of districts have chosen to fund, often with hundreds of thousands of dollars taxpayers' money, fund social justice and diversity, equity, and inclusion, absurd programs. Your members refuse to listen to these concerns, and your association has chosen to smear their constituents rather than engage them in good faith. It is appalling that you would choose to threaten your fellow Americans for having the courage to hold you accountable. We will not be bullied. We will not have our speech chilled. We have a constitutional right to petition our elected officials, and we will continue to do so. We ask that your organization and your members engage respectfully and constructively with the country's parents, grandparents, and concerned citizens so that we might work together. And this is signed by Parents Defending Education and 21 other organizations with over almost 500,000 members. And I personally want to digress here and say I am totally disgusted with the way this board has debated an important policy decision regarding going in deeper into debt and paying obnoxious salaries to when they have no money. I want to tell you now that we, parents, grandparents, taxpayers, citizens, declare war on you.
All right. So I wanted to remind you what you're speaking about is civility. So you're now off topic.
Civility
so I'm going to call.
Civility ends
out of order.
Obnoxious.
It will be nice. Thank you very much. All right. The item we're looking at right now is adoption of a new board policy on civility. So we have two more speakers. I just want to remind you that's what we're speaking to. One more speaker, actually.
Right, Graham Fraser.
You're up, Graham.
Hi there. Can you see me?
Yes, we can, Graham.
Okay, I can't see myself, so I don't know. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you again. You know, it's a sad situation that our society has devolved to the point that a policy is needed at all. You know, I came from Australia many years ago, but we had a lot of civility there, and I just don't understand the lack of it here. Even though I may have insulted you folks once in a while, I want to apologize if I've offended any of you. However, it was heartening to see that the policy included welcoming and encouraging participation and feedback through stakeholder engagement, promptly responding to concerns and embracing varying and diverse viewpoints, just directly from the policy. A newsflash, I'm a stakeholder, and as a taxpayer and a community activist for our kids, even though I'm 81. Today, despite meetings with staff and presentations regarding my concerns at board meetings, I have not been afforded a neutral face-to-face dialogue with anybody. Talking to staff or board members is a one-way dialogue. It seems to be very rude to me. It just doesn't feel good. Sadly, my experience has been one of toleration. They tolerated me, not engagement. When meeting with the superintendent, senior staff and or board members, I have not been made to feel comfortable. In a meeting, and Emily talked about this, I was with her at that meeting with Superintendent Vitale. Emily and I were told that this was her office and she was in control and refused to answer simple questions from the like of the public participation in the ethnic studies curriculum. It's refused. She said, I'll get back to you. I don't think she ever has. And she did it with an air of a dictator, which really I found very offensive. Other senior staff, at least one board member, have publicly called me a liar when I have been lied to many times by staff, and they know it. And at least one board member, this is not civility. Please do not pass this policy tonight without more input from all stakeholders. And that's us. Thank you.
All right, Michael Mitchell, you're up first. Thanks for waiting. I know you jumped on it earlier tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Begin. Good evening, Dr. Vitale, administration, board members, and public. It's been a while since I've been up here presenting and speaking. I'm all busy with work and everything. I'm Michael Mitchell. I'm a parent within OUSD. My topic of conversation is regarding the school closure, and specifically the meeting that happened last month. First, I have a little bit of a disagreement, just in the sense of just in the sense of the timing of the meeting. It didn't allow for people like myself that are parents, since it was during the daytime, to attend the meeting. And so just want you all to be aware of, since this is such a serious issue in the sense of where you're talking about either relocating schools, merging schools, or combining schools, or discontinuing schools, that's such an important topic. And then secondly, I have asked, and it has not been put up yet, the recording or the Zoom session from the bait and switch situation, just in the sense of the public was asked to vote for the new bond measure so that we could repair schools and to improve our schools. And now I knew this was going to happen, as it has been with all the other measures. It's like, trust us, we're going to help us to approve this bond measure, and it's going to help us, improve our schools. If the public had known that part of the discussion was either merging schools or discontinuing schools like Reynolds, I don't think the bond measure would have passed. And Mr. Blessing and I have gone back and forth on, in a sense of stating that, Reynolds was one of the schools that was not promised. And for every bond measure that I've voted on, Reynolds has been on the list of schools for improvement. And it seems like we've just been drawn out. And now it's on discussion for Reynolds for possibly be closed or merged with another school, with Del Rio, Libby, or whatever. And it's not fair. And I just want the public to be reticent of the fact of it. This has been a very bait and switch situation. I don't feel like that the board has been very honest, and the board has not been very forthright in a sense of the assurance to the public about when it comes to facilities improvement or for the improvement of schools that have been promised to be improved upon. And then how we were talking about earlier about shade structures, how we're going to talk about shade structures if we're talking about merging and discontinuing schools. So I just ask for the board to be reticent on this topic, and that's the end of my discussion. Thank you for my time.
Thank you. Speaker?
Ignacio?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
We can hear you. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you for your time. It's a little late. Sorry about the time, but I didn't hear the topics about being a mentor in like elementary schools. I'm a Eastside community resident. I was born and raised there. I would just like to be a mentor in the community, of elementary schools that I haven't heard nothing about funding that kind of stuff for mentors for kids, because that's what I think is needed.
when I was young, I chose I made wrong choices, and I lived those streets. And when I was in school, I don't remember having mentors in that situation, and I think I would be a good asset to being a mentor for kids because it's in my heart. Not just for the community of Oceanside, but to expand to other communities out there. And I was wondering, how could we go about that? Or what do I need? How do I need to go about that? And to help these kids, to me as a kid, all those things that we're doing, it's nice, it's beautiful, but those are the things I used when I was a kid to go hang around, and that's how I chose to do my bad choices, and that's how I met the gangs and drugs, and that's what I would like to do, be a mentor to kids before they go that route and show them other things, other trades out there in the world. I'm with the local 89 union, and they showed us and trained us how to become construction workers, hard construction workers, to be in the society in this world. And that's what I would like to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Brad Tobias.
No, that's on it.
Hello, and good evening once again. First off, thank you for all that you do for our community, for our students, and everything else. I greatly appreciate it, and this is coming to you as a parent. So, as was stated earlier, the National School Board Association has wrote a letter to the Biden administration calling on parents to speak out against CRT and the related classes like ethnic studies, domestic terrorists. The DOJ and FBI has thus endorsed the NSBA's request. We, the parents who stand against CRT and related subjects, are not domestic terrorism or domestic terrorists. We are concerned parents, constituents, and taxpayers. What the NSBA has requested is unconstitutional and unbiblical. You are elected by us to look after the best interest of our students. Staying with us here is in the best interest of our students. Above all the moments to use your positions, to include all the fiscal, the curriculums, everything else like that, now is the moment where you fight for us. Be our voice. You call yourselves champions against oppression. Our voices are being oppressed. Fight for us because history will remember you for it. The saying goes, if you don't fight, especially for those who want to seek higher political ambitions like city council and so on and so forth. I request, no, I demand that you fight against the language used by the National School Board Association. Again, thank you for your time. God bless.
Thank you.
Hannah Valentine. Hannah.
Hello, good night.
Hello.
And yes, I have two children del Rio School, and I would like to stay open for all the children because it's a great school, and I like it, and I chose choice of school. So I wanted to tell you, please leave the school open and do not close it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laura Fisher, and then John Carroll.
Am I there, kids?
Yeah.
Okay. As someone said earlier, we can't see ourselves, so we weren't really sure. And it's kind of late, and I'm trying not to fall asleep. So here we go. I'm going to read it because I'll forget it.
Okay.
I did want to start by reading just a little section on the OUSD website. On the board section, it says the Oceanside Unified School District Board of Education invites you to attend our monthly regularly scheduled board meetings. Attending a meeting will provide you the opportunity to better understand how your school district operates. Please remember that public schools belong to you and your involvement is strongly encouraged. Community participation and open lines of communication are vital components to a strong school system. Couldn't agree more. My concern is open lines. Parents have no clue what's going on with the school consolidation. That's what I'm talking about tonight. I don't feel, well, I know for a fact parents haven't been notified. That doesn't seem like open lines to me. The parents, students, residents of the area haven't been notified. Feels like the decisions are already made, which is beyond frustrating since community input has not happened as per the timeline OUSD put forth. If this consolidation choice is a financial one, which it's sounding a lot like there's financial issues in the district, then why go with the most expensive choice, option C, which is uprooting Del Rio students to Libby, completely rebuilding Reynolds, and giving the Del Rio campus to Surfside? Per slides from the board's meeting, one which I might add was a special meeting which sprung this consolidation on totally unsuspecting school communities. If option C is authorized, it would move the amazing, I stress that, special education pre-K, state pre-K, and special education mod severe classes from Libby and Del Rio to other sites. These students are some of OUSD's most special assets, and having them move from schools they consider home is not something that should be done lightly. As we are all acutely aware, students and staff across the nation have been to heck and back the past 19 months, and we are finally getting some stability back, working hard to not only address educational lags due to time out of the classroom campus, but especially addressing the social emotional issues our students have endured, and a lot of that rebuilding takes trust. Our Del Rio students trusted us when we constantly reminded them throughout our tumultuous last school year that despite not being together in person, we're still a Viking family, that the bonds and relationships we worked hard to establish meant something. But at the end of last year, our principal unexpectedly left, leaving some to wonder about the importance constantly placed on being a cohesive unit. A new administration and staff have come in, we're amazing, by the way, and along with the staff that was already there, we've been working on relationships and stability. It began again, and now you want to break that Viking family school trust.
Thank you for your comments. Okay. Is that our last?
One more. John Carroll?
Yeah, I think we have two more.
Two more? Yeah.
John Carroll.
Hello, John. You're up.
Yes, respectfully, my name is John Carroll, and I'm here to share my serious concerns for our students regarding the content and resources of the ethnic studies curriculum, and to request that you allow community input in a new design. I was a teacher at OHS for 31 years and a head football coach for 26. I love Oceanside and I love the students of OHS. The quantity and quality of their cultural and ethnic diversity make them unique. Their cooperation and unity make them great. Let me give you an example of ethnic diversity done right. I coached OHS football 26 years from '89 to 2014. During that time, we won 13 CIF championships, 2 state championships, 7 consecutive CIF championships, 21 consecutive semifinals. All of those things are county records that our students achieved. As a result, we were recognized as one of the top 50 programs in the nation. No other program in Oceanside Unified can say that. Our teams were as ethnically diverse as any in the country: Black, white, brown, Asian, Polynesian, and even Native American. The TV network covering our 2007 state championship game produced a highlight video of our team's diversity and how, from many, we became one team and produced excellence. We were better as a whole because of the diversity of our parts. Over those 26 years, there were some racial problems within our community and city. Our players were affected by them, like everyone else. So how did we take students with developed ethnic preconceptions and build unity? How? By requiring the same expectations for all: character, effort, self-discipline, production, things that every student can control. When students saw that those expectations, with the praise and consequences that came with them, applied to all, they saw themselves as equals, individually and mutually responsible for the excellence of our team. We did not point fingers. We looked within and took personal responsibility. I firmly believe that had my players been subject to the current ethnic studies curriculum, we could never have achieved excellence and become one. But I do think we would have gotten good at pointing fingers at each other. This is not Oceanside. Allow our community to assist in developing a curriculum that reflects our nation's good and bad in an Oceanside way, not a San Francisco way, not a Los Angeles way.
Thank you. Our final speaker tonight.
Yes, it's Emily Richards.
Hello, Emily.
Hello. Thank you, John. Very, very well said. You've been a star in our community for decades. Thank you. Now, last month, I requested the board to direct staff to start the procedure to form a committee for the purpose to make it our own ethnic studies, using policies, curriculum development and evaluation, the Citizens Advisory Committee, civic education, history, social science instruction, and the controversial issues. We can formulate our own ethnic studies as a reflection of our community. There are several models of ethnic studies, and some include this kind of curriculum: to build mutual respect, self-confidence, awareness, and intergroup understanding and empathy; to elevate ethnic groups, their backgrounds and contributions without denigrating others; openly and honestly address racism and discriminatory treatment; present a range of political perspectives and approaches, bringing about change, including strengths and weaknesses of each; equip students with the skills to understand and analyze multiple points of view on relevant topics so they can develop their own opinions and present well-articulated, evidence-based article. Also use the principles on the history, social science framework from the California Department of Education and their guidelines. The OUSD Ethnic Studies Committee could create their own guiding principles to work by, look at our races through a wider lens perspective, and ensure to highlight our local heroes and community leaders of all races. The Education Code and California School Board Association supports Make It Our Own Ethnic Studies. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes our public comment tonight. Item 11, moving